everybody, I'm Lisa Young Sutton, and this is the Lenormand Stork card video. The stork is the card of change, and if not influenced by negative cards, it generally refers to positive change or improvement, most often with regard to your domestic life. It may describe an evolving situation, advancement, transitions, relocation, additions, replacement, or renovations. But no matter what, the stork brings the birth of something different. While on its own, it's rather positive, it's highly influenced by surrounding cards and may indicate change for the worse if other cards indicate that. Why was the stork chosen for the emblem on the card of change? Well, being highly migratory, storks change residences annually, giving us the meaning of change, especially a change of residence. Now, some phrases to help you understand the stork's primary vibe include turn the tide, out with the old and in with the new, or breathe new life into something. Its core energy is positive neutral. When you see this card, consider words and phrases such as change, shift, alteration, relocation, flexibility, evolving, advancing, progressing, replacing, reorientation, improvements, transitions, substitutions, modifications, innovations, migration, and birth. You'll often see the keyword return for this card, and return is a change. Just remember that it's your question and the surrounding cards that will explain the nature of the change that the stork is bringing. Okay, we'll look at the idea of returning in the relationship section in a moment. I'll also explain its connection to travel in a moment. All right, descriptively, the stork may refer to restlessness, which is a need for change, or flexibility, which is the ability to change. It may refer to air travel if it's describing the ship, or if you're asking a question about an upcoming trip. It can signify home renovations, job promotions, new additions to your home or your life, moving on to new projects, and all general movement and activity involved in change. It may show up to represent waterfowl or game birds. And because of all of the marshland on the Cape, it often appears in my dailies to refer to these marshy areas. I found a really great leather leash once when the stork showed up in my daily draw because I was looking at the ground when I was hiking through the marshes. Okay, in describing a person, physically they may have long legs and a slender build. They may be graceful and have bad or selective hearing, because birds actually hear differently than we humans. Stork types tend not to listen to anyone and follow their own inner guidance system, right? Like combine bad hearing and restlessness. And yeah, I'm definitely a stork type. All right, personality traits include being adaptable, flexible, restless, one who loves change and variety. Occupations include a pilot, a flight attendant, a furniture or house mover, a midwife, a natal nurse, or an orphanage or adoption agency career. Now, let's look at the cards on the table. We have a lot of storks, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter if there's a single stork or a couple storks. It doesn't matter if they are flying. Here, this one is carrying the stuff to build a nest, right? It doesn't matter if they are feeding babies or carrying a baby. The meaning of the card is exactly the same. It's the card of change. Let's see, the fairy tale fortune card, the stork, time to travel and make changes. Now notice it doesn't say that this is the card of travel. It actually says that on the ship card, but it says time to travel and make changes. Okay, we'll get into the travel aspect in a moment. The verse card says, change and relocation are what the stork promises to you. But if he is quite far away, your present situation will have to do. I think I just added a word to that, but whatever. Okay, cute. That's all I want to say about these cards? Yes. All right. Now, okay, in a daily draw, the stork says that your usual daily routine will be disturbed somehow, and the other cards will indicate how and whether or not this will be favorable. Something may improve, a situation may evolve, something may be added to your life, or with the ways, you may experience a significant outlook change regarding a decision or choice. In advice readings, whatever you're asking about, the stork tells you that something will change regarding that, right? It's time to shake things up, to move on, or just to move, so get cracking. Change can be hard, but it's necessary for growth and expansion, so embrace it. These are advice readings, remember. It may simply ask you to change your thinking. In a work or business reading, it can regard changes to the business, going in a new direction with a business plan or project. It can tell you that it's time to innovate. You'll find a better way of doing something. It may be asking for modifications to something. With favorable cards, it may show improvement, possibly a promotion. In a spiritual reading, we'll consider the three main themes for this card, which are change, birth, and the legs. Okay? It may indicate a need to change your spiritual practice and allow something new to be born. The legs may tell you to get moving, whether that is through dancing or walking in nature, which is my favorite way to meditate. If the child card appears with it, consider the terms metamorphosis and transmutation, as this is what the stork may be calling for. That, I believe, is pretty much taken right from my book, the spiritual, in a spiritual reading. I have most of what I just said in there. You know, for those of you who are taking notes, know that some of what I say is verbatim from the book. Okay, in a health reading, the stork refers to change which will require other cards to elaborate on. Because it leans toward the positive, if it's with neutral cards, you can expect some improvement in the condition asked about, and certainly with positive cards. It may refer to pregnancy with the child card, and it will indicate that a pregnancy has evolved to the point where birth will take place. Okay, the child and birds together is the traditional pair for conception and early pregnancy. Anatomically, the stork stands for weak limbs, both the legs and knees as well as the elbows, because the rider is the card for legs in general. It can refer to well, let's just get to, okay, I already said that. Yeah, it can refer to, I already mentioned pregnancy, of course, with the child card. All right, so let's get to the relationship readings, because that's what you're all here for, right? So many of you are just like, tell me about relationships. All right, so in a relationship reading, the stork implies some sort of change that will require other cards to explain. It may refer to a positive change within a relationship, or a need or desire to change the relationship or something about it. With positive cards, it will show an improvement or evolving of the relationship, as in taking it to a new level. Now, when seekers want someone to return to them, and they see the stork in a relationship spread, they of course want to see it as a return. Whether or not the stork is indicating a return will depend on your exact question and the other cards. Your primary vibe for the stork is change, so start with that. If the stork is the stork the first card, the last card, or in the middle, that's really important if you're reading a narrative line. The cards following the stork will explain where the change is heading in a narrative line, okay? If you're asking about the future of a relationship that has already ended and the stork appears, there will be a change to the ending, right? The other cards will describe what that change is. And here I'm going to show you an example here. Okay. All right, so this was Grace was asking there. She appeared in this. Nobody was pre-selected here. So Grace was asking, where is Wayward Willie heading next? All right, and this the context was that Willie had left Grace, and you know, but they hadn't like officially ended the relationship. So they are currently split up, but you know, she wanted to know if he was coming back. I mean, that's really what she was asking. So the question was, where is Wayward Willie heading next? And as you can see from the cards, he was heading back to her, because where's he heading next? Well, he's going to change from where he is now, which is gone, right? She appears, and the rider is bringing change to her, and says that it's going to happen soon, and there's going to be a change in his loyalty, and he's going to be basically returning to loyalty, returning home, returning to her, however you want to say it. It did say that he was coming back. He was coming on home. All right. Now, what if you had asked... Let's see. Let's play around with this a bit. What if you had asked, how will the relationship evolve? Okay. So this is, you know, like a new relationship, but you know, people, you're still together, and you want to know how it will evolve, and you got the stork in there. What if the stork is with the... Should I zoom? Yeah, I should. What if the stork is with the snake in the coffin? Right? Well, what is that telling you? So, how will the relationship evolve? This says, where's my pointer? Here. It's going to progress to complications, and then it's going to end, right? Because you're asking about the relationship. This is a change in the relationship, complications in the relationship, an end of the relationship, right? What if you got the stork, and the stork's heading into the trees? Stork's going to get caught in the trees, right? They don't live in trees, storks. Okay, so in this case, how's the relationship going to evolve? It's going to progress to stagnation, and it's going to be challenged and stagnating for quite a while, all right? And what if it was heading to like something like that, right? Here you'd have, you know, the relationship is going to advance to a decision to split up. Yeah. Okay, so that's some relationship stuff. Let's do some comparisons, since I have my little comparison board here. And I will use my Petit Lenormand. Right, there it is. Okay. We can compare the stork to the dog. Okay, because the dog is staying or remaining loyal to something, while the stork is changing, right? The ring is similar, okay, because the ring is a continuation of the same pattern, right? But the stork is an alteration of a pattern, right? You can compare the stork to the ways, because the way says you have options and alternatives, while the stork indicates making a change. That's all it's saying, right? You can also say that the ways says you have options, while the stork indicates that a change will just take place, or a change will happen to you, right? You can see how this could play out in different readings, right? This could be just that something's going to change, right? You don't have any choice, but here it says you have options. Okay. So what are other cards that bring change? Well, the rider brings change through movement and someone or something new coming to you, right? The child is something new and growing, or a fresh start, right? These are similar to the stork. The ship is a journey, an adventure, or a venture to seek something better. Well, the stork is simply saying change, okay? So all of these other cards can explain the change the stork is bringing. Well, what's the opposite of change? Holding steady or persevering, that's the anchor. Or sticking with the familiar, that's the house. Or being rooted and stagnating, or maintaining inertia until conditions improve, that's the tree. Okay, let me put put my GT in front of you. Okay. All right. There she is. Is that good? Yeah. Okay, so looking at the original instructions. What do the original instructions say? Well, I have to get the book out. Okay, the plot. The stork indicates a change of abode, which will take place the sooner, the nearer the card lies to the person. I love the wording in some of these. Who wrote this stuff? Okay, so yes, there you go. Now, the original game instructions. Nothing happened in the game if you landed here, and no other card sent you here. So that kind of made it rather neutral, right? Coffee card verse, there was no stork in the coffee cards. You know, for a card of change, you would think it would be a little more interesting, wouldn't you? Okay, so the method of distance guidelines. What do they have to say? Well, when the stork is near, it represents a significant change in the seeker's life that will happen soon. Okay, that's what I just read to you about from the original instructions, rather. With the house, you may be moving or renovating. With the child, you can expect the birth of someone or something new. With your work card, expect a significant change at work or a career or job change. And the closer the card falls, the more profound the change, or the sooner it will happen, right? So its position also adds nuance. Is it influencing you, or are you influencing it? Are you ahead of it in the stronger position, or behind it in the weaker position? This was a GT for a man. So what I'm referring to here is, in this case, here's the stork. It's ahead of him in a stronger position, right? Behind him would be weaker, ahead is stronger, and it's above him, which is also a stronger position, below is weaker, right? So it's influencing him, he's not influencing it. Okay, that's what I mean. And those all just add nuance, okay? Now, if the stork were near him and all these other cards were problematic, then it would tell you that something is about to change that he's not going to like he's not going to want that change, right? If the stork is far, there would be no significant changes during the time period, which could be good or bad, right? It'll still bring some sort of a change to whatever cards it's touching, but if it's far, you know, and if it's far and it's surrounded by unfavorable cards, if the stork is far, let me say this correctly, if the stork were far from him and if he were surrounded by unfavorable cards, it may say that he is stuck in a frustrating and stagnant period in his life, okay? Yeah. Okay, so it has no directional cue and it is not part of any cluster. All right, now let me tell you what this spread is all about. This was regarding travel. All right, so this was a GT I laid for this man, you know, about a year ago. And his question at the time was, will I be traveling this summer? He used to travel abroad a lot, and then he stopped because of the virus. And he wanted to know last year if this would be like, you know, the summer that he would get to travel abroad. So First of all, let me explain that regarding travel, the ship is the life area card for travel. Here's the ship, okay? The traditional travel cluster consists of the ship and the birds. The stork is not in there, all right? So when the ship lands near your card, it suggests travel. When the stork lands near your card, it suggests change, all right? If that change is going to involve travel, the ship would also be there, or the birds would be far, okay? That's the travel cluster. The ship near says you're going to travel, and it's going to be like a major trip, a distant trip, like a trip abroad maybe, whatever, but like a big trip. But the other part of the travel cluster is the birds being far says that you will have a short trip, a day trip, or just like a little overnight trip or something, a way to escape the daily frustrations of the birds, right? That's the travel cluster. The stork is not part of the travel cluster. All right, so looking at this GT, what we can say is that, remember he was asking, will I get to travel abroad this summer? The ship says no, okay? Remember, these are his very near cards, the box around him touching him. The next layer out are his near cards. The ship is just out of reach. Plus the cards around the ship all said, no way, Jose. But what does he have? He has the birds very far, because actually the farther the birds are away, the more likely you will get a small trip, or even several small trips. And this told me that instead of traveling abroad, he would be traveling, taking a short trip or many short trips with his wife and kids, because he did have a wife and kids. And yeah, maybe even some place where he could take his dog. I always throw that in because I always want everybody to take their dog. Okay, anyway, so what is the stork describing here in this situation? Because you'll notice that the house is here and the stork. So if this were a general GT reading for somebody, you would be correct to suggest that they may be moving residence, right? I mean, that would definitely be a logical question to ask them. In this situation, that was not even on the table. He was not moving. He was strictly asking about travel. So what was the stork saying here? Well, it's above the tower, so it represented long-term official changes that would rain out his travel plans, right? It's got the clouds above it, right? Tower below it. Yeah, so his travel plans were going to be rained out, and this would lead him to find alternative solutions, which would involve, there's alternatives, right? He's got options because he's got the ways close, and that would involve staying closer to home. Here's his home, right? Here's like sit, stay. There's the loyalty of the dog, right? And this is finding the solution, right? Yeah, so that's what that was, grabbing an opportunity, yeah, to just stay closer to home. So yeah, the answer for him was no, he was not going to travel abroad. He was just going to stay closer to home. Okay. That's it for the stork, my friends. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video, which actually the next video is going to be the ways or crossroads or paths. Yes. All right. Thanks, and see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.